Guten Morgen, meine Damen und Herren. Mein Name ist Ulrike Stracker. Ich bin Wirtschaftsdelegierte in Sofia und begrüße Sie ganz herzlich zu unserem Webinar Outsourcing gegen Personalmangel, das wir für Bulgarien und für Kroatien Ihnen heute präsentieren. Und ich begrüße meine Kollegin in Zagreb, Sonja.
Guten Morgen, sehr geehrte Damen und Herren. Sonja Holocho-Erdl aus Zagreb, Dobro Jutro aus einem frühlingshaften Zagreb. Ich bedanke mich herzlich bei Ulrike Stracker aus dem Außenwirtschaftscenter Bulgarien, dass sie heute die Moderation übernimmt. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, wir sehen uns dann später beim Kroatien-Teil unserer Präsentation. Bis später, auf Wiederhören.
Danke. Warum veranstalten wir dieses Webinar? Österreichische Firmen sind auf der Suche nach Personal. Es ist schwierig zu finden, Fachkräfte werden knapp und Bulgarien und Kroatien bieten in diese Richtung Möglichkeiten. Und zwar wollen wir uns die Möglichkeiten zum Outsourcing heute näher anschauen. Wir haben Experten eingeladen, die Ihnen Fachvorträge geben werden und die auch für Fragen zur Verfügung stehen. Diese Fragen können Sie schon während den Vorträgen stellen. Wir werden sie nach den Vorträgen am Ende des Webinars beantworten. Der Ablauf ist so, dass wir zuerst Bulgarien vorstellen und die Möglichkeiten des Outsourcings und dann nach Kroatien gehen und dass am Ende unserer beiden Informationssessions die Questions und Answers stattfinden. Liebe Zuseherinnen und Zuseher, wir können Sie nicht hören und nicht sehen. Deshalb möchten wir eine andere Variante wählen, mit Ihnen in Kontakt zu treten und würden Ihnen vorab gern 2 Fragen stellen, damit wir ein bisschen besser auf Sie, die Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer, eingehen können. Sind Sie bereits am bulgarischen oder kroatischen Markt tätig? Und Sie können wählen, ja in Bulgarien, ja in Kroatien, in beiden Ländern oder in keinem der beiden. Ja, also 13% von Ihnen sind bereits in Bulgarien tätig. In Kroatien sehe ich noch keine Firma, die tätig ist. Und 3/4 von Ihnen sind noch in keinem unserer Länder tätig. Dankeschön für diese Antwort. Gehen wir zur zweiten Frage. In welchem Bereich haben Sie Interesse an Outsourcing? Und Sie können hier wählen zwischen IT, HR, Finance, Procurement und Sales und können auch mehrfach klicken. Bitte antworten Sie auf diese Frage. Okay, hier haben wir eine interessante Antwort. 80% suchen IT-Outsourcing, 20% von Ihnen HR, 27% Procurement und wieder 20% Sales. Das heißt, Sie haben ja mehrfach angeklickt, deshalb ist die Summe nicht 100. Das Gros ist im IT-Outsourcing angesiedelt, aber auch HR, Procurement und Sales sind interessant. Danke vielmals, dass Sie uns diese Antworten gegeben haben. So können wir ein bisschen besser einschätzen, wie Ihre Bedürfnisse sind. Ich möchte Ihnen jetzt eine Einführung in den bulgarischen Markt geben, zur bulgarischen Wirtschaft etwas sagen, damit Sie einen Rahmen haben, in die Sie die Informationen der Spezialisten dann einordnen können. Bulgarien ist seit 2007 EU-Mitglied, seit 2004 NATO-Mitglied und erfüllt eigentlich alle Maastricht-Kriterien. Der Wirtschaft geht es gut, das Wachstum ist höher als im EU-Durchschnitt, höher als in Österreich, auch dank EU-Förderungen. Die Inflation ist moderat bei 2,7%, die Schulden sind auch im Rahmen der Maastricht-Kriterien bei 27% vom BIP. Die Zahlen sind noch aus dem Jahr 2018, die ich Ihnen jetzt präsentiere. Die Zahlen für das Jahr 2019 bekommen wir erst im März. Aber es ist ungefähr, es gibt also keine groben Änderungen in diesen Zahlen. Bulgarien hat 7 Millionen Einwohner, 5% Arbeitslosigkeit. Das ist nicht viel. Das heißt, da ist nicht viel Spielraum und es gibt auch Fachkräftemangel. Der Wechselkurs zum Euro ist in Bulgarien seit Jahren fixiert durch ein Currency Board, durch einen Wechselkurskorb. Und Bulgarien hat bereits den Antrag auf Aufnahme in den Exchange Rate Mechanism 2 gestellt, also in den Vorraum zum Euro. und es wird erwartet, dass Bulgarien in den nächsten Jahren den Euro annehmen wird, einführen wird. Bulgarien ist sehr attraktiv als Investitionsstandort mit 10% Körperschaftssteuer, relativ günstigen Löhnen und auch wenn die Produktivität ein bisschen ein Thema ist und auch wenn Arbeitskräfte knapper werden. Bulgarien hat außerdem eine tolle Anbindung an Österreich, 4 Flugverbindungen täglich. Und das ist auch der Grund, warum Österreich hier sehr viel investiert hat. Circa 350 bis 400 Niederlassungen. Und Österreich ist damit zweitgrößter ausländischer Investor in Bulgarien mit einer Investitionssumme von 2,8 Milliarden Euro. Wenn wir uns die Handelsbilanz anschauen oder die Leistungsbilanz, so fällt auf, dass in vielen Bereichen die Warenströme und Dienstleistungsströme in derselben Kategorie sowohl in die eine als auch in die andere Richtung gehen. Also etwa bei Metallprodukten gibt es viele Exporte nach Bulgarien, aber auch viele Importe aus Bulgarien. Und so ist es auch bei der Bekleidungsindustrie, bei den Skiern zum Beispiel. Es gibt einige Beispiele dazu. Und das deutet darauf hin, dass in Bulgarien Lohn veredelt wird. Das ist nicht nur beim Handel mit Waren so, sondern auch bei den Dienstleistungen. Und gerade im Dienstleistungsbereich ist Bulgarien so stark, dass Österreich in dieser Dienstleistungsbilanz und insgesamt in der Leistungsbilanz seit 2016 ein Defizit hat. Was sind diese Leistungen, Dienstleistungen, um die es geht? Das sind Speditionsleistungen, Personalverrechnung, technische Planungsleistungen, Programmierarbeiten. Und die Art und Weise, wie österreichische Unternehmen mit bulgarischen zusammenarbeiten, ist unterschiedlich. Es gibt also bulgarische Partnerfirmen und in vielen Fällen haben sich die österreichischen Firmen aber entschlossen, eine Niederlassung in Bulgarien zu gründen und sich diese Dienstleistungen quasi selbst zu erbringen. Jetzt möchte ich nach dieser Einführung ins Englische wechseln, um meinen Gast zu begrüßen. I will now switch to English and I would now like to welcome my guest. Ilya Kristev is on the board of the Bulgarian Outsourcing Association, IBEST. Welcome, Mr. Kristev.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And I ask you to give your presentation, and I will sit down in the meanwhile. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's great to be able to present to you some data for the Bulgarian outsourcing industry. So I'm starting with a bit of information for myself. I'm the chairman of IBEST, and I'm also CEO and partner in A-Data Pro. We've created the association in 2012, and at that time we were 5 companies that created the Outsourcing Association. The mission of the association was to establish Bulgaria as a leader in the knowledge-intensive product services solutions and a global hub when it comes to R&D and tech development. Currently, we have in the association more than 50 companies and partners, and we represent, only the companies in the association represent more than 35,000 employees. I'll give you a bit of context and data for the sector. The data that you see is for official data for 2018. So these numbers are actually higher for 2019, but we still don't have the official numbers for that. So in Bulgaria in 2018, there are 583 companies operating in the industry, and these are split 50-50 between ITO and BPO. In 2018, this makes 5.2% of the Bulgarian GDP, or 2.4 billion euro. And we expect that to double by 2022 to around 5 billion euro, or 9.2% of the GDP. It's the growth that we are seeing. This is what we see for 2018 compared to 2017 is close to 20%. And the average growth that we have seen in the last 4 or 5 years is 18%. So this is a sector that is growing with the highest intensity of everything else that's happening in the country. If you compare it with the growth of GDP, it's 5 or 6 times higher than that. At the end of 2018, there are 73,000 full-time equivalent employees in the industry, and this is a growth with close to 10% year on year. This is also something that we are seeing as an average growth for the last 5-6 years. So we expect that growth to keep like that in the next 2-3 years and to slow a bit after that. Western Europe and UK are the main markets at the moment for the sector, and US is being the main overseas market. When it comes to the talent pool, Bulgaria is actually the country in Europe that has the highest number of universities per capita. As you can see, we have 51 universities across 14 cities in Bulgaria. This is actually contributing to the fact also that a lot of the business, when it comes to outsourcing, that is currently happening in Bulgaria, the new business, is now not only in Sofia, but also in other cities around Bulgaria. 38 of the majors that are studied in these universities are somehow related to the sourcing industry. And we have 8 of the universities with which we are in close cooperation as an association. So basically, we are creating some of the documentation and the degrees themselves when it comes to degrees that are relevant to our industries. And we are sending people from the companies that are actually presenting in these, that are professors in the universities and so on. And we are already using these to start in other universities around the Balkans. So we have the same programs in Macedonia and in Serbia. In 2018, there are close to 55,000 university and college graduates, and around 20,000 of them are suitable for employees for the sourcing industry. One quarter of the students that finish per year are actually pursue a degree in language studies. So when it comes to languages, Bulgaria is really good when it comes to representation of different languages. So there are companies here that cover global operations in more than 14 languages, 40. As you can see, the number of schools that are preparing students for career in shared service centers, we have 100. These are here. You don't have the number of private schools. So language schools, 102, high schools of mathematics, science, and economics, 129, and universities that have majors in language, economics, or IT, 38. Here are some of the points why Bulgaria is a good place to do business and a good place to find partners. I'm sure all of you know that Bulgaria has a 10% corporate tax. Bulgaria is number 1 in Europe and number 3 worldwide in number of IT certified specialists per capita. Bulgaria is number 5 in Europe and number 8 worldwide in internet speed. It has a really reliable infrastructure. We have great data centers in Bulgaria. Security and privacy of confidential business information is regulated, safeguarded by regulators. Close to 30% of the population holds a university degree, and 80% of the graduates speak English. 1/4 of the 60,000 students per year pursue a degree in language studies, and 7% of the workforce has engineering degrees. So on top of that, Bulgaria in the last several years is actually being like a rising star in Europe when it comes to the tech scene, when it comes to startup funds, acceleration funds, and so on. Currently, we have something like 1,500 startups in Bulgaria, which is actually adding to creating a community of innovation for the companies that are doing outsourcing and actually adding product services that are in the R&D companies that are startup companies. There are a lot of investment in this, and this creates an innovation community that actually adds value to all the services that are provided out of Bulgaria. So the labor costs per full-time employee by segment, as you can see, the average for the whole industry is around 22.5. This is for 2018. 22.5 euros, 1,000 euros per year. The highest cost is for the ITO. We are seeing an increase of salaries in the last several years, which is on average 4 to 5%, depending on the category of the outsourcing, but it's slowing down in the last 2 years. And some information about the office space market in Sofia. Class A office space is around 14 euros per square meter. This is the prime office rent. And then Class B is 8 to 11 euros per square meter. IT companies are actually getting more than 40% of the newly leased space in Sofia. So this is another sign of how fast the whole industry is growing. And that is like a brief overview of what we are doing in Bulgaria, both as activities for the association, but also the averages for some numbers and the general performance of the sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kristev. Thank you for this interesting presentation. Ich möchte jetzt zum Vortragsteil nach Zagreb schalten. Liebe Sonja, klappt die Verbindung?
Ich hoffe doch, Kroatien meldet sich hiermit zurück. Dann gehen wir jetzt in Medias Res mit Kroatien. Ich darf Ihnen am Anfang einmal ganz kurz ein bisschen was zu Kroatien erzählen. Zuerst einmal noch vielen Dank an Uli Stracker, dass sie die Moderation übernommen hat und an uns so gut übergeleitet hat. Vielen Dank auch für die interessante Präsentation über Bulgarien. Jetzt zu Kroatien. Kroatien ist ja das jüngste EU-Mitglied, seit 2013 bei der EU dabei als Vollmitglied. Als Kroatien beigetreten ist, war es gerade mitten in einer langen Krise, die hat noch bis 2014, fast 2015 angedauert, aber seither geht es bergauf. Nicht ganz so dynamisch, wie wir uns das alle wünschen würden, aber doch. Und die wirtschaftliche Verflechtung mit Österreich ist ganz besonders stark. Es gibt sehr starke historische Verbindungen zwischen Kroatien und Österreich. Und Sie sehen es auch hier auf der Folie, Österreich dominiert bei den Warenexporten, während Kroatien bei den Dienstleistungsexporten dominiert. Das ist natürlich in erster Linie der Tourismus, der mehr oder weniger für dieses Land wirklich der Hauptmotor der Wirtschaft ist. Aber man sieht auch gerade bei den Dienstleistungsexporten, dass IT-Leistungen und andere unternehmensbezogene Dienstleistungen immer stärker werden. Und damit sind wir auch schon bei unserem Keyword, by Business Process Outsourcing in Kroatien. This is also my clue to switch to English now, because our speakers are speaking English. And I'm very happy to welcome here today my colleagues from Deloitte Croatia, Katarina Pavlovic and Gordon Kozul. They will be talking about business process outsourcing, do's and don'ts, and their experiences in general, and also about the tax and legal aspects of business process outsourcing. And then we will have Lucia Velican from the HR agency Talentarium. This is actually the first and the only HR agency that is specialized in the IT and technology sector. And they will give us an overview about business process outsourcing in the IT sector in Croatia. So without much further ado, I would now like to ask Gordon Kozul from Deloitte to start with the presentation. Gordon, here you go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, I will start a little bit from the consulting perspective of talking about outsourcing. I'm a senior manager at Deloitte here in Zagreb. We do and support our clients in outsourcing as a standard business practice and management imperative. but we see many companies are actually struggling in getting the most benefits out of the outsourcing exercise. So before we give you a short summary of the situation in Croatia, the numbers and data, I want to transfer some of the experiences that we have with the companies that want to outsource in Croatia. First of all, we recognize that most of the companies have struggled with understanding when and how to do the outsourcing. Of course, we always advise them first to look at the benefits and the risk of such an exercise. Outsourcing is one of the strategic tools that can address important business challenges, and therefore it requires highest level of strategic decision making. It's for many companies benefits, of course, of outsourcing, whether that be outsourcing small non-core activities such as accounting, or outsourcing a core activity, or for IT companies, maybe outsourcing IT development. There are definitely some benefits, and probably you're fully aware of that. First, you can access the wide range of talents. Also, you can reduce the costs and be more flexible in developing and contacting the clients. However, the risks are significant. And this is what I wanted to stress today. I think once you outsource some of the core activities, then you might lose, or you can have an outflow of knowledge from the company. Also, you can have a partial loss of management control, especially in the context of quality. There is also some existence of hidden costs. Whatever is not defined within service level agreement might appear as additional costs. So many risks are here involved, and it's important to be fully aware of this situation. That's why we think it's easy to describe the outsourcing practice as some kind of getting in marriage or engaged. If your business is to surrender key processes to third-party suppliers, it needs to be based on the relationship that it's same as marriage. The true understanding of motivation of both parties to get involved. It's some kind of long-term commitment and has to be based on trust. That's why we advise our clients to think about some of the top key questions like those you can see on the slide here before getting into the outsourcing relationship with the client. And of course, before you go forward, I think you should think about outsourcing not just another procurement, because it's much deeper and much more delicate question. So if your outsourcing goals and needs are not clearly defined from the start, and you cannot establish a quality level of trust with the potential partner, then you might end up in unhappy marriage in that sense, because you have to give up some of your resources, you have to give up some of the control, and if you're not 100% sure to go forward, then better to think and take some time and choose the right partner. In that sense, it's very important to, and our clients often give us a mandate to help them out in the process. So to increase the chances of achieving anticipated outsourcing benefits, I think the key message from my part of the presentation is to do proper planning and management of this initiative. In that sense, we have structured in Deloitte very common, simple, but based on the common sense and structure approach support that we can help our client. As you can see on this slide, there are 6 key steps that we always advise the client to go through when thinking about outsourcing. And the first is to assess all the options and to assess from their internal strategic base whether to go forward in that direction or not. Second is to have a good preparation, to define standards that you expect, and also to define a quality that you expect from a potential partner in that sense. And then you go through evaluation of potential partners. Then you go to the commitment where you have to strictly define all the legal parameters of this kind of engagement, all the standards of a service level agreement and so forth. And then you go into transition. And once this outsourcing is working well for you, you have to continuously think about the optimization and the improvement of this kind of relationship. So this is a short part from my side, and I will give this floor to my colleague Katarina now. She's going to give you a little more details about tax and legal aspects of outsourcing in Croatia.
Hello to everyone. I will briefly present the legal and tax aspects of outsourcing in Croatia and of the Croatian tax systems. So in case that you decide to engage third service provider, so already existing companies in Croatia for outsourcing part of your business to Croatia, there should be no specific legal and tax aspects to consider. In generally, this would be just typical service contractual relationship, and the Croatian companies would issue invoices without Croatian VAT and without any withholding tax. However, if you decide to establish your own company or a branch office in Croatia, your liability would be higher. So when comparing company and branch office, we always recommend to establish a company in Croatia. The usual form is the limited liability company. The reason is that the company's liability is limited up to the value of the company assets. And in case you have a branch office, the branch office is not a separate legal entity. So the mother company is liable for the potential hidden liabilities of the companies of the branch office, for example, in case of a tax audit, in the amount which can exceed the value of the asset of the branch office. And in general, the branch office has the same tax and accounting responsibilities like the companies, or there would be no savings from this perspective. Let's have a short look at the Croatian tax system. So the corporate income tax rate in Croatia is 18%. However, for the small entrepreneurs with annual income up to 7.5 million kuna, which is approximately 1,000 euro, the corporate income tax rate amounts 12%. We have withholding tax on some type of services and payments to foreign companies, like consulting services, interest or royalties payment. However, based on the double tax treaty that we apply with Austria and EU directives, tax directives, these rates can be reduced to zero. The standard value-added tax rate in Croatia is 25%, but we apply reduced rates of 13%, for example, for the tourism services, and 5% for certain products like books, medication, and some types of food. In general, services provided by the Croatian companies to Austrian companies would not be subject to taxation as we apply the reverse charge mechanism. So charged. The personal income tax rates in Croatia, which are applied on the employment income, are progressive, 24% and 36%, on top of which the local surtax will be calculated based on the residence of the employee. But from 2020, young people are exempt from payment of the personal income tax in the way that individuals up to 25 years of age are exempt 100% from the payment of the personal income tax, and individuals from 26 to 30 years are paying 50% of the personal income tax. The employer can additionally be exempt from payment of the employer's social security contributions, which are 16.5% in case of employment individuals under 30 years for indefinite period, or employment of individuals who are employing for the first time in their life. On this slide, you can see some average gross salaries in Croatia for the IT sector, call centers, and accounting services. So in case of the outsourcing, you can expect the costs. For example, if you would outsource IT services, software development services, the average salary in Croatia in IT sector is around gross 2,400,000 euros, and the net salary is 1,350 euros. But these are the costs without all these exemptions and incentives which can be received by the companies and the employees. And in general, the personal income tax legislation provides a lot of non-taxable compensations which the employer can pay to the employees, like accommodation costs, meal costs, kindergarten for children, bonuses up to 1,000 euro annually and some other compensations. So maybe compared to other countries, neighbor countries, Central and Eastern Europe, our tax rates for employment are a bit higher, but you should have a deeper look in it because there are a lot of incentives and non-taxable compensations which can reduce the total salary cost. In general, there are a lot of incentives in the case of investment in Croatia and creating new jobs. I will just mention a few of them. We have an Investment Promotion Act, which provides tax benefits for companies who are investing in production, in business support activities and research and development activities. For example, if you invest in ICT system and software development centers or development of telecommunication network operation centers, you can be entitled to reduction of the corporate income tax to 100% for a 10-year period under assumption that you invest at least 50,000 euros in fixed assets and you create 10 workplaces for at least 3 years period. Also, if you invest in state aid areas and city of Vukovar, these are areas of Croatia which are less developed and which were affected by the war in 1990s. You are also eligible for some tax incentives, decrease of the corporate tax rate to 50 or 100%. The only condition is that you are doing business there and that you employ more than 5 employees with a permanent employment contract for at least 9 months in the respective tax year. So this is a short overview of the taxation system in Croatia from my side.
Thank you very much, Katerina and Gordon from Deloitte. I'm just looking over there where they're sitting. We don't have that much space here in front of the camera. So I think there were very interesting points raised by both Gordon and Katerina. I think comparing outsourcing with the marriage is a perfect analogy. You really have to think about what you're doing very carefully because it is a deep commitment that you're engaging into. And as Katerina pointed out, the Croatian taxation system on the first view might not look as attractive as in other countries, but if you look deeper, it can be very attractive. We're coming now to our second presentation by Lucia Velican, the HR consultant for IT industry from Talentarium. As I explained before, Talentarium is the first and only HR agency that is specialized in the IT industry. And I'd ask Lucia for an overview about the IT industry in Croatia and also her experiences with outsourcing and nearshoring options, also with Austrian companies. Lucia, please.
Hello.
Thank you.
Hello, thank you. Good morning. Yeah, as mentioned, I'm Lucia from Talentarium, and my presentation today will focus on providing you some more insights about business process outsourcing opportunities on the Croatian tech market. And also, as mentioned, the company I work in operates in the IT field, which means that most of the presentation and most of the slides for me today will focus on the IT industry. However, I'd say that a decent part of the presentation may also apply to other industries. So I'll start with some basic facts about the Croatian IT sector, just to provide you with an overview of what type of market it is and what it can offer to you. So in 2019, on the Croatian market, you could find, or there actually are and were, around 6,300 registered companies in IT sector. And besides that, there were approximately 25,000 employees or people employed in IT industry. And when we add to that approximately 15 to 20,000 employees in non-tech companies, like in in IT departments of the non-tech companies, we can conclude conclude that the Croatian IT market actually has a decent tech scene and a relevant tech community. Another interesting fact is that according to the leading American outsourcing advising firm Accelerance, Croatia was ranked as the first in tech higher education and training in Balkans. And besides that, many international rankings and institutions rank Croatian Faculty of Electrical Engineering and Computing FAIR among the best tech universities in the European market. And because of that, it is actually a common scenario that a lot of tech alumni from Croatia actually find interesting careers both in Croatia and abroad. Another interesting fact, or the reason why many foreign companies actually decide to outsource their operations to the Croatian tech market, is because you can find, I'd say, all types of not just programming skills, but also tech stacks on the local market. Besides that, you can actually find, or as well find, expertise in almost every business domain related to IT sector. So in terms of, or talking about the programming skills and depth, no matter if a company is searching for web development or mobile or enterprise development outsourcing, this is something that you can find on the Croatian market. Besides software development, there or here on the Croatian market also exists both embedded or hardware or even, I don't know, Internet of Things development and resources available. When talking about business domains, here you can find a list of the expertise that exists on the Croatian market, but I believe, or I'm also very sure that the list actually doesn't stop here. Another interesting parameter, reason why it is interesting to work with the Croatian tech market, is because of the majority of the population that speaks English. So in IT sector, the situation is even better. There's almost no people or no experts in the field that do not have at least the certain English language proficiency. And besides English, I'd also communicate that almost the majority of the population is in a way familiar with the German language. Interesting fact, or interesting information from the Croatian Ministry of Economy, Entrepreneurship and Crafts is that approximately 60% of pupils nowadays are learning German in the upper secondary education, which again makes Croatia the third best ranking in Europe, and again interesting for Austrian companies to come to Croatian market. Here I've added, or placed some information about the income from the IT industry to the Croatian market, and the data presented here, I believe, provide you with some relevant insights about the importance of the IT industry to the overall Croatian economy. Also, the information listed here, I believe, provides you the relevant information about the importance of export to the IT industry as well. And the additional information that you can find here is the information about the average gross monthly salary in the ICT sector. You've heard some numbers or information about that earlier. But to sum it up, or some kind of general feedback that I wanted to provide you here, is that still the costs or labor-related costs in Croatia, I'd say, are significantly lower than the ones in Austria when we're talking about the IT industry. When talking about business process outsourcing, like tech business process outsourcing in Croatia, you can actually expect that Croatian companies will charge you from, let's say, 30 to 70 euros per hour, depending on the project size and the cooperation type. So all in all, as I said, labor-related costs are, I'd say, significantly lower, and you can, when talking about tech business process outsourcing, you can expect to have, let's say, 30 to 35% lower rates than the ones in Austria. And last but not the least, one of the, I won't say dominant, but relevant reasons why especially Austrian companies decide to outsource and collaborate with the Croatian IT sector is because both of the physical closeness to the Austrian market, but also, I put it that way, cultural closeness to the Austrian market. For example, when we compare Croatian tech market with, I don't know, Indians or the Eastern ones, there are significantly big differences in comparison, for example, with those two markets. On the Croatian market, tech market, you can expect significantly greater emphasis on quality and the usability of provided services to the end customer. So to sum it up, I believe it's going to be switched in a second. So to sum it up, these are the, I'd say, dominant reasons why Croatian tech market is becoming more and more relevant to on the global tech map. So on one hand, it's because of the high quality and relevant tech scene, and on the other hand, because of the expertise or possibility to find almost every technology stack needed and experience in different business domains. Of course, the population can, as I said, communicate and work in English, and the entire economic situation is still favorable, and I'd say stable. And as I said, not last but not the least, on the Croatian market, definitely foreign investors can expect to have the appreciation of their local culture. In this scenario, the Austrian one. So I'd say that the next, or the logical question, the additional logical question here would be, okay, but who exists on the Croatian market, or who to work with? On the Croatian tech market, you can actually find a variety of tech companies that are actively working in business or in tech business process outsourcing, meaning that you can on one hand find companies that are specialized in outsourcing a particular IT process, such as development, testing, or even project management, or on the other hand, you can even find companies that have expertise in the entire project or product development outsourcing. And in the last years, you can even expect to see the try and buy option on the Croatian market, where, for example, foreign tech company or just foreign investor decides to initiate collaboration with a Croatian tech company throughout business process outsourcing service, and eventually they insource that activity or that service throughout acquisition. And I have one slide here which refers to the micro location, and I thought it's important to put it here because, for example, for a foreigner, Croatian market may look as, I'd say, small and homogeneous one. However, different cities do offer different specializations and expertise in a particular tech-related business or tech domain. So, for example, in Osijek, and Osijek actually offers the best value for money when you're or if you're searching for QA or tech support. On the other hand, Varaždin is, I'd say, well known for outsourcing or supporting companies in terms of business process outsourcing, but in tech terms. Like you can find expert community related to business analysis, project management, or even IT management in general. And Zagreb, but also Rijeka and Split are best known for software development outsourcing. So instead of some kind of closing words, I actually tried to create a short self-evaluation inventory, which I believe will help you understand and see whether the Croatian market really is a good option for your tech business process outsourcing. So if you find yourself in one of the following things listed here, like if you're searching for niche support, high quality, reliable, and long-term BPO partner, similar culture, but also physical closeness, in those scenarios, Croatia definitely is a good option for your tech business process outsourcing. On the other hand, if you're predominantly oriented towards some kind of significant scale up, or you're just trying to reduce your costs, and on the other hand, if you're trying to find some kind of quick fix solution, in those scenarios, Croatian market might not be the best possible solution for you, as they're significantly bigger, but also, I put it that way, cheaper markets that may be a better option for your business process outsourcing, or may actually be the better answer for your business related needs. So I believe that with this short presentation, I managed to give you a short overview of the Croatian tech market and help you understand whether it really is or isn't a good option for tech business process outsourcing. If you still have additional questions, I believe that we'll have a Q&A session to answer them. And on the other hand, you can always reach out to me via contacts listed here. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia, for this very, very short but extremely comprehensive overview of the Croatian IT market. So, ladies and gentlemen, you really know now where to go if you're searching for IT or tech outsourcing in Croatia. Ich schalte jetzt wieder auf Deutsch zurück. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, wir sind jetzt am Ende unserer Präsentationen angekommen. Wir kommen jetzt, wie schon angekündigt, zu einer Fragen- und Antworten, zum Fragen- und Antworten-Teil. Das heißt, Sie können Ihre Fragen jetzt stellen, beziehungsweise haben Ihre Fragen schon gestellt. Und für die Moderation des Fragen- und Antworten-Teils schalte ich wieder zurück zur Uli Straka ans Außenwirtschaftscenter Bulgarien. Uli, bitte.
Ja, grüß Gott, willkommen zurück. Und ich bleibe noch im Englischen. I will stay with English because Ilya Kristev, the chairman of the Bulgarian Outsourcing Association, IBEST, is next to me. And while we are waiting for the first questions to come in, I would like to ask you, you've not only taken the post of IBEST chairman, but you also are the CEO of one of the leading Bulgarian IT companies, A-Data Pro. Do you perform outsourcing services? And if yes, with whom or with which partners?
Yes. So the company was actually created like 20 years ago. So it's one of the first companies that is dealing with outsourcing in Bulgaria. And what we're doing is we provide outsourcing services. Not only we now do more and more own products, but we work with global business information companies around big data, artificial intelligence, and so on. So we're working with Thomson Reuters, Bloomberg, companies of that type, Financial Times. And we have around 500 people in the company. So, and this is split more or less IT, ITO, and other services 50-50.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, we've been hearing about a lack of qualified labor in Bulgaria. Is that an issue for you? How do you deal with it?
It's definitely, compared to what the situation was several years ago, when it comes to scaling up. We no longer can scale up with the pace that we were able to do in like 2 or 3 years ago. But what we're trying to do is, because we have several really big companies in Bulgaria that are in IT, but also BPO and so on, and we as association, as I mentioned before, we are trying to work with the universities to create academies together with the universities, but we also create academies by ourselves and start these academies in Sofia and in other cities in Bulgaria. These are usually led by companies that have more than 1,000 people when it comes to IT specialists. So in the last 4 or 5 years, just from these educational initiatives, we have added something like 3,000-4,000 people to the Bulgarian market. And the other thing that is done in Bulgaria, and we're working closely with the government on this one, is trying to ease the regulations of getting people that are not living in countries from the European Union, get visas to work in Bulgaria. So this is actually relevant to all the neighboring countries that are not part of the European Union. And we have eased that a lot. So now we are doing, what we're doing is just attracting more people from the region in Bulgaria and using that as an additional scale up.
Okay, thank you very much. I can see that we are getting the first questions. One is, I am interested to found a company for production of medical products. Where should I go? Does one of these countries offer education possibilities in the area of medical products? Now, ich möchte dem Herrn zuerst auf Deutsch antworten, was Bulgarien betrifft. Die Frage kommt auch mit einem Zusatz, wo es um Korruption geht. Wie steht es mit Korruption? Dazu möchte ich sagen, ja, Korruption ist ein Thema in unserem oder in Bulgarien, aber wie auch in Österreich, Stichwort Eurofighter, aber es ist gerade im Outsourcing-Bereich so, dass man mit Korruption sehr wenig Berührung hat oder gar keine. Im reinen privaten B2B-Geschäft ist man davon zum Glück verschont. Und jetzt zur Frage, die Eröffnung einer Niederlassung für Medizinprodukte, Produktion. Da können wir Ihnen gerne weiterhelfen und unseren Vertrauensanwalt für die Firmengründung, unseren Vertrauenssteuerberater für die Steuerberatung empfehlen. Eine Firmengründung in Bulgarien ist relativ problemlos, wenn Sie sich das Doing Business der World Bank anschauen, das verschiedene Investitionsstandorte vergleicht, weist für Bulgarien im Bereich Firmengründung wirklich super Werte aus. Das heißt, es ist relativ kurz möglich und unproblematisch und ist mit niedrigen Kosten verbunden. Do you know about any education in the medical field? I mean, es gibt natürlich Med-Unis, aber jetzt speziell für Medizinprodukte ist mir keine Schule oder kein College bekannt. Aber wir können dazu gerne noch Näheres herausfinden. Sonja, darf ich zu dir geben für Kroatien?
Gerne, vielen Dank. Vielleicht auch ganz kurz zu dem Transparenz- oder Korruptionsthema. Ich glaube, das ist in unserer ganzen Region leider nach wie vor ein bisschen ein Thema. Es gibt hier natürlich Verbesserungen, aber man kann es auch nicht ganz ausschließen. Wenn wir sagen würden, es gibt das hier nicht, dann wäre das auch nicht ganz richtig. Kroatien ist als Produktionsstandort durchaus interessant. Die Firmengründung ist relativ einfach. Es gibt diverse Unterstützungsprogramme. Kroatien ist natürlich sehr interessiert, höherwertige Produktionsstandorte aus dem Ausland hier anzusiedeln. Das heißt, Sie können sicher sein, dass Sie hier sehr viel Unterstützung dafür bekommen werden, gerade für einen Bereich in Richtung Medizinprodukte, Technik. Die Ausbildungsschiene. Kroatien hat an und für sich ein sehr solides und gutes Bildungssystem. Wo wir ein bisschen, und da kommt es darauf an, wie Sie Ihre Produktion anlegen wollen, ja, wo man inzwischen Probleme hat, ist diese richtigen Facharbeiter zu finden. Ja, das Facharbeiterniveau, das man in Österreich aus der doch sehr soliden Lehrausbildung hat, das ist in Kroatien ein bisschen abhanden gekommen. Das soll wieder aufgebaut werden, geht aber ein bisschen langsam. Also duale Ausbildungsmodelle werden jetzt wieder erweitert. Das duale Ausbildungssystem wird gerade überarbeitet. Ein neues Gesetz wird bald kommen. Aber die ersten Berufe, die jetzt in der neuen dualen Ausbildung hier kommen werden, gehen jetzt noch nicht ganz stark in die technische Richtung. Aber die universitäre Ausbildung ist sehr gut, gerade auch im technischen Bereich. Und ich könnte mir gut vorstellen, dass Sie hier Möglichkeiten finden, outzusourcen. Aber Kroatien ist auch gerade für den Produktionsbereich nicht mehr ein wirkliches Niedriglohnland, muss man auch sagen. Ja. Also es ist schon, wie auch Lucia Velic schon vorher erwähnt hat, die Löhne sind noch günstig, es besteht aber enormer Lohndruck nach oben, eben auch, weil Fachkräfte fehlen, die auch sehr stark emigriert sind und nach wie vor emigrieren. Das heißt, wie bei allen Sachen muss man sich das sehr gut anschauen, aber wir stehen für weitere Informationen dazu auch sehr gern zur Verfügung. Wenn Sie sich nach dem Webinar vielleicht nochmal mit uns in Verbindung setzen wollen, dann können wir das Thema auch nochmal im Detail beleuchten. Damit gebe ich zu.
Ja, danke. Die nächste Frage lautet, for both countries, how does the cooperation with authorities work? How would the experts rate the relations with authorities? Mr. Christoph.
When it comes to Bulgaria, and as I showed you these numbers where the industry is growing with close to 20% year on year, this is actually one of the industries where the cooperation with authorities and government is quite good. We already mentioned about the tax and how this is being stable in the last several years. And just to give you an idea, we basically in Bulgaria up to 1,500 euros gross salary. The total amount for both social, health, and personal income tax from these 1,500 euros would be 22.4%. This is the total. And for everything above 1,500 euro, it's only 10% personal income tax. When it comes to how we work with educational authorities, universities, but also government authorities, we have been able in the last several years to actually change a lot of the regulations when it comes to education. And we are now able to get people in both high schools and universities, people from the industry. And we have been able to actually give a lot of flexibility when it comes to regulations around that, and being able to be to create a good cooperation between business and education. And the third one is, again, I mentioned that, easing the regulations when it comes to getting people in Bulgaria. So the government is obviously, it's seeing that this is an important industry, and is doing everything they can to support that industry. So we are happy with how we are cooperating with the government.
I can maybe add that we have also been getting the good support for our project of dual education. Also für unser Projekt der Lehre, das wir als Außenwirtschaftscenter seit 5 Jahren in Bulgarien vorantreiben für österreichische Investoren hier. Dieses Projekt wird von der Regierung unterstützt und es gibt auch die notwendigen Gesetzes- und Verordnungsänderungen, die für die Einführung der Lehre und für die Lehrpläne notwendig sind beispielsweise. Ich gebe nach Zagreb. Sonja, bitte zu dieser Frage. How does the cooperation with authorities work?
Well, I checked back with our speakers, and to be quite honest, it depends. There is the Croatian authorities are aware that not just for foreign investors, but actually for every business in Croatia, red tape and administrative processes that are very cumbersome are a big problem here, and that they're really slowing down business. And there are measures being taken to alleviate these problems, but this takes a lot of time. But the other thing is that it really depends also where you go. So there are, because with especially when you're thinking about opening up a company, then of course you're dealing a lot with local authorities, and there are areas in Croatia where local authorities are brilliant. You will get all your permits and everything in the matter of a few days or a week, and there are areas where it's not. It's more difficult. So it's a little bit difficult to give you a general answer to that question. We hear, especially Mrs. Pavlovic also reports that, especially with the tax authorities, there is now you see that they really try to improve communication and to make it easier to work with the tax authorities. Also heard that from other sides. And so slowly things are getting easier and getting better, but nevertheless it always depends on where you actually go in Croatia, how the local authorities will be able to operate, depending also on resources and education on the local authority level. So that's as much as I can say to that.
Okay, next question. A typical salary comparison website says software developer averages salary US $21,000 per year. Would you agree? And is this according to your experience? What is the average salary of a software developer in Bulgaria?
I think it would be higher than that. So the average at the moment would be around 25,000 euro. So this is a bit low.
Right. I also heard that it is no longer the case that you would come to Bulgaria to find cheap IT services. You will find the quality, but this is also the reason why your software developers are coming back or staying in Bulgaria, because they earn enough money.
Yeah.
And
because end of the day, when you look at the net salaries that you're getting for a growth like that, and even when you compare it to some of the countries in Western Europe, and with the standard of living in Bulgaria, it is very possible that you're getting a better standard with a lower salary, with a lower salary. So this is actually attracting a lot of people back to Bulgaria when it comes to high-end skill sets.
Yes. Sonia, how is the case in Croatia?
Well, I'd like to ask Lucia Velican to come over here and give us an insight into that.
Yeah, thank you, Sonia. Well, actually, I think that we've touched that topic during the presentation on our end, like both my colleague from Deloitte and I have touched that topic of the salaries in Croatia in IT sector. From my perspective, I'd say that there is no unique answer here, because the information that you can find as visible online, or the general information about the average salaries in IT sector, definitely won't give you as precise answer as the information that you actually need for your particular business. So in IT industry, or even to be more precise, in software development industry in Croatia, salaries, as I said, are not the lowest ones on the European market or within the European Union market. However, what you get for that salary, or what you get for the quality of such engineers that you employ, I'd say is not just comparable, but on the other hand also very attractive to the entire European Union market. So when we put it all in numbers, let's say that some kind of mid to even senior level developers on the Croatian market you can actually have them for approximately 2,000 euros to 2,300 euros gross per month. Additional thing that also a colleague from Bulgaria communicated that on the Croatian market, salaries are usually being paid 12 times a year. So it is still not a common scenario to have 13 and 14 salary, which also again, matters in terms of costs on the Croatian market. So yeah, I'm not sure whether I managed to answer the question, but yeah, it's quite wide and the answer is in that direction as well.
I think you did perfectly well.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm. I think the same is true for Bulgaria. There are 12 salaries annually. Yes. Okay, the next question. What is the average salary for a mechanical and electrical engineer in Croatia and Bulgaria? I am not quite certain. We will be able to find out for you. The mechanical and electrical engineers have a lower salary than IT. It may be around €1,000 per month, but let me get back with statistics and with more precise information to you. Sonia, what is the case in Croatia?
Okay, you saw me gesturing to my speakers. I would ask Gordon Kotel from Deloitte to cover that, because he made some interesting comments about experiences in Deloitte on that in that field.
Well, to give you a direct answer, we employ electrical and mechanical engineers in Deloitte because we're providing a consulting services to the production companies. So I would say the salaries are a little bit lower than for the IT sector, but for all the engineering diplomas, I think going between 1,500 to 2,000 euros per month. I think it's an average salary for this profile of experts.
And that's also gross,
yes,
gross salary.
Mm-hmm.
And no 12 and 13s and 14s?
Yes, it's the same thing as an IT, mm-hmm. Yeah. But so approximately, let's say 2,000 euros gross monthly.
And do you see a lot of pressure upwards on the in the area of wages?
Well, it all depends about the focus of specialization. Mm-hmm. It's very hard to give a general answer because in those two disciplines you can highly specialize in some segments where then you can get more salaries. The salaries are higher, but the expertise are highly needed.
And availability of personnel, of young people, especially in this area?
Yes, so both in all the major cities in Croatia, there are universities that teach both engineering discipline, electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. I would say the University of Zagreb is probably the strongest one, and they produce regularly very quality professionals.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dankeschön.
Maybe I should be more precise. If you were talking about university degree people and experienced people, the salaries would go up higher. And welders, Schweißer, are especially sought after, and their salary goes up to over 2,000 euro, 2,500 euro per month. So it really depends what sector and what degree of experience. An additional question, the Croatians will have soon easier access to the Austrian labor market. What is to be expected regarding this topic?
Well, this is a question that I'm getting asked on a very frequent basis now. It's hard to say. With on the 30th of June, the labor market, or the 1st of July, the labor market will be opened. My guess is that those people who wanted to leave and who had the right qualifications to get work permits within the quota in Austria, they have left already, so they already are in Austria. there will still be people now coming to Austria with whose qualification profile is probably a bit below or not exactly what was needed in the quota system, and they will make their labor available in Austria. So there will, I think that there will be more people coming to Austria on the labor market. But it's really hard to put a specific number or expectations on it. I've also talked to economists and very clever people trying to run studies on that, and I can't get an exact answer on that. So I'd love to know myself, but this is my estimate.
Mm-hmm. For Bulgaria, I could add the Bulgarians have been able to choose where they want to work for the past few years, and there are approximately 45,000 Bulgarians living in Austria, and Bulgaria is also trying to attract them to come back. Mm-hmm. What about the other countries?
I think that when it comes to that, it's like we had a lot of people going to UK as well. So we'll see what happens now after UK leaving the European Union. But generally for Bulgaria, we have been through that in the last several years. And I think that we are now, when it comes to people living and going to work in different countries in the European Union primarily, it has stabilized, and some of these people are actually starting to go back. So this is also good for getting back know-how on the local market, on top of getting back skillful people on the local market. So Bulgaria for them is a good place to do business, to do startups, and as I mentioned, this is now being a hot topic in Bulgaria. Mm-hmm. So part of these people are now coming back.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's good news. I have another question. How can we make contact to the right company that can deliver the services that we need? Maybe I should answer that for ourselves. Das Außenwirtschaftscenter steht Ihnen natürlich gern zur Verfügung, die richtigen Partner zu finden. We are providing partner search to the Austrian companies, but I think you are also helping in finding the partners.
Yeah. Yeah, very often it's actually regardless of whether companies go through through embassies or through, for example, there is an investment agency of Bulgaria, but also investment agency of Sofia. Usually these people contact us, and we actually provide additional information for companies available on the market, and on top of that, like organized meeting with local authorities and so on. So this is something that we see as a priority for the association to get more business on the local market, because for us competition is actually the thing that's driving the market. So.
And another question regarding Bulgaria. Is Sofia the region to look for, or other cities also developing where we could find partners in IT?
Yeah. So basically, I mean, the first city that would come to mind is of course Sofia. But in Sofia, in the last several years, they have been. I mean, everybody is in Sofia. You have all the big multinational companies that create here R&D centers or their own operations and so on. And we have now seen that in the last 2-3 years, there are like 2-3 other cities where companies are starting to get to work in. So this is like Plovdiv, Burgas is another city like that, and Varna is another one. So these are 3 cities where you have local universities and where you already have a local community of companies that is doing ITO, BPO, and working good with the local administration.
Okay. Another question. There are already so many people leaving the countries. How will that develop? Regarding Croatia, I think it is a similar question to the one we had starting 1st July. There is already a lack of qualified labor. How will that affect the Croatian labor market?
Well, the immigration has been happening for a while now, and first, when I came here to Croatia 3.5 years ago, it was actually everybody was happy that the unemployment rate was coming down, and the fact that migration was part of that wasn't really that much talked about. The problem is now authorities are very aware of the problem. It's definitely something that is a great challenge for Croatia, and authorities have started to react to introduce, for example, also in the field of taxation, to introduce measures to keep young people here with very beneficial taxation measures. Maybe Katarina, could I ask you to say a few words on that?
Yes, I already mentioned it in my presentation. So the government has introduced from this year incentives for young people. It's a part of a demographic measures in Croatia to keep them here. So young people up to 25 years of age are exempt from payment of the personal income tax completely. So on an annual basis, any tax paid for them, they receive refund from the tax authorities. And persons between 26 and 30 years receives 50% of tax paid during the year refunded from the tax authority. So this is one of the measurement for keeping young people in Croatia.
Mm-hmm. I think there's also, with regards to supporting families, there are also measures taken, so there is the authorities are aware of the problem and are trying to create an environment to keep people here and to increase the net salaries.
Yeah.
And
in the last couple of years, the tax burden is really decreasing related to the salaries. So the tax rates are getting lower each year. And government introduced a lot of non-taxable compensations, like for young families, for the children, kindergarten care can be paid by the employer tax-free, accommodation, meal expenses, and similar compensations. So this should be also taken in account when looking at the total cost of the Croatian salary.
Yeah, thank you. Another question for Deloitte Croatia. How long does it take to found a company in Croatia, and how much does it cost apart from the minimum capital requirements?
It takes 1 to 2 weeks. At the moment, you have all documentation which is required for the establishment of the company. So it's pretty fast. And so the share capital of the limited liability company is about 2.5 thousand euros.
Mm-hmm. Related question, or together with the first one, how about closing a company? How long does it take and how much does it cost?
It depends on the size of the company, the cost, I mean. So the time, it's about approximately 6 months, the liquidation process.
Okay. One more question here. What is better, hiring IT services or building up your own team in a cost center? This, let me start to give you the question.
So this is quite a general one, because it really depends on what you want to do. Basically, companies like years ago, you know, they were trying to do their own operations. Not so much now, because with all the available skill set on the market, it's actually sometimes better to work with a partner in order to have enough scalability when it comes to different services that you'd like to be kicked in very fast. So because scaling up is not like that easy anymore. So a lot of the companies that are getting now on the market are either trying to work with a local partner, or sometimes like buying a local company. Of course, there are still companies that are opening their own IT centers. Just from last year, we had several new ones. So the World Bank now has an operation in Bulgaria. Financial Times has an operation in Bulgaria that is primarily IT, but there are also a lot of other companies that have, that have started cooperation with different companies compared to setting up their own business here.
Thank you. How is that in Croatia?
Well, for this, I would like to ask the colleagues from Deloitte to shed light on this, so give us your thoughts.
Yes, so it's very difficult to give a general answer. It depends on the strategic decision of the company itself, whether to, because on the spectrum of business process outsourcing, you can have a total outsourcing practice where you actually give it to the third-party provider, or you can have some kind of shared service center. It all depends on the network of the connected companies or the group, what you want to achieve by outsourcing this kind of business. Maybe Katarina can give you a little bit more.
From the tax and cost perspective, maybe it would be considerable to have its own company because, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of incentives foreseen by the Croatian legislation for establishing company and investments in Croatia and creating new jobs. So you could benefit from this tax incentive if you would have your own company and shared centers in Croatia.
Thank you.
Okay, an additional question to the one regarding salary for IT engineers in Croatia and the lower taxes. If young people are exempt from taxes, how much is the net salary per month for software developers?
Lucia or Katarina?
Maybe I can. So the employer is required to pay the full salary with taxes, and the individuals are receiving direct from the tax authorities refund. So I hope this answers the question. So it's not that. So their actual salary is increased for the amount of the tax, but only they receive this refund on an annual basis from the tax authorities. It's not on a monthly basis. It's not that the employer can benefit from this tax incentive. It's the employee on an annual basis. And the total benefit depends on the total salary. So the tax rates are progressive. So it depends. The higher salary results with higher tax benefit.
Okay, thank you. We have another question here. Do many IT professionals work as self-employed? And if yes, how can I find them? Question to you, Mr. Kristov.
I'm not sure that there are so many that work as self-employed. There are a lot of people in Bulgaria that actually work for international companies without offices in Bulgaria, that work remote and so on. But on top of that, when it comes to people that are, they usually use platforms for freelancers and so on. And if you want to, to get to these people, a good idea might be to just use one of the platforms for freelancers. I'm sure that there are some people from Bulgaria that are doing development on these platforms. So that would be the most straightforward way.
Okay. Sonia?
Croatia, I'd like to ask both Katarina and Lucia to comment on that. Who wants to start?
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, maybe I can tell you a little bit more from the labor market perspective, and you'll add on top of that the information about the taxation system. So in terms of Croatian tech market, I'd say that it actually doesn't differ significantly from other European markets in terms of people who are being self-employed or, on the other hand, freelancers. The amount or the percentage of such population on the Croatian market is even below 10%. So yeah, it is possible to find them and to employ them or contract them for your projects. But on the other hand, the Croatian market is still predominantly oriented towards work contracts. In terms of the additional part of that question was related to the possibility of finding them. Yes, as on the Bulgarian market or similar to the Bulgarian market, on the Croatian market, you can definitely use some kind of global platforms to source those people. On the other hand, our services and activities on the market, like Personalmangel ones, are also oriented towards supporting foreign tech investors in order to help them or establish their local entity on the Croatian market or find proper tech partners here. Also, I believe that always the good first contact is Advantage Austria, which can actually direct you to anything that you might need on the Croatian market. And regarding the tax system, I'll let you.
Yeah, I would like to mention that self-employed IT experts in Croatia have a really beneficial tax treatment. So those who are self-employed, if they have an annual gross income up to 25,000 euros, they are required to pay taxes and social security contributions up to a maximum of 3,000 euros on this total gross income. So there are a lot of Croatian individuals in IT sectors who have their self-employed businesses in Croatia. But you should be carefully if one of these IT experts is working just for you, just for your company, because the tax authorities could consider that this is in substance employment relationship. And in case of tax inspection, they can ask the employee to pay the difference between this lower tax that he's paying as a self-employed individual and the employment taxes. And the employer, in case of a foreign company, which would be in substance considered as employer, there is the risk of paying social security contributions in Croatia. So the Croatian tax authorities would not ask you to pay the difference between the lower tax and higher tax, because this is the responsibility of the individual, but they could ask you to pay the difference in the social security contributions, because the foreign companies who are hiring Croatian local employees who work here are required to register for the payment of the social security contribution. So if the tax authorities would consider that this is an employment relationship because the individual is just working for one company, there is a risk that they would ask you to pay the difference in the social security contributions. So you should be aware of this if you work with self-employed individuals. But if they are working for more companies, there is no risk.
Okay. Thank you. I'm watching the time a little. We've got 6 minutes left, I think. Last question we can take. Personnel, is it possible to find German-speaking people? How is the situation? Mr. Christoph, a very short answer, please.
German language speakers, together with Spanish and English, are the top resource when it comes to language capabilities in Bulgaria. We have seen a big increase in the demand for German-speaking people in Bulgaria. So you have a lot of call centers and so on, and this is one of the languages that the local companies invest the most when it comes to creating additional trainings and so on. So you have
there is the resource. I can also say that a lot of schools in Bulgaria don't only teach German as a foreign language, but teach all the subjects in German. So I was surprised to find that here. Sonja.
Well, I think German is also still very strong, especially in northern Croatia, but Lucia Milican will tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. Thank you. Actually refer again to the local industry, where, as Sonja already communicated at the beginning of the presentation, that Austria is actually the strongest foreign investor, direct investor in the Croatian market, which is also visible in the IT market as well. Like many Croatian companies are collaborating with the Austrian market, and I'd say that approximately 50% of the local tech community has at least some German language proficiency. And on the other hand, since the statistical data from the Croatian Ministry of Economy, Entrepreneurship and Crafts also share that positive spirit regarding the German language knowledge, meaning that the answer here would be yes, you can definitely find German-speaking people or employees on the Croatian market as well.
And there are also, I think, more than 50 high schools, so secondary schools in Croatia that have German as a focus language still in Croatia. English has been introduced as the first foreign language in schools quite a few years ago from the first form of primary school. So English language proficiency is excellent among young people, but German is still very, very strong.
Okay. Liebe Zuhörerinnen und Zuhörer, wir kommen zum Schlussteil. Sonja, ich darf dich um deine Schlussworte bitten.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, herzlichen Dank, dass Sie bei unserem Webinar dabei waren. Ich möchte mich von der Seite Kroatien verabschieden. I'd also like to thank once again our speakers, Lucia Vilican, Katarina Pavlovic and Goran Koshun from Deloitte, Lucia from Talentarium. Ich möchte Sie auch noch gerne auf zwei Veranstaltungen hinweisen, die wir in Kroatien heuer haben, und zwar am 13. Mai abends und 14. Mai ganztägig, Austria Connect Southeast Europe. Der findet in Zagreb statt. Das ist eine Konferenz für österreichische Niederlassungen aus der Region Südosteuropa, also vor allem Ex-Jugoslawien plus Albanien. Und hier haben Sie die Gelegenheit, mit Niederlassungsleitern aus der ganzen Region sich auszutauschen, was ihre Erfahrungen eben in der Region sind. Eine zweite Veranstaltung, die für Sie interessant sein könnte, ist unsere Bildungs- und Karrieremesse, die in Kroatien am 13. Oktober in Zagreb und am 15. Oktober in Rijeka stattfinden wird. Wir haben da einen österreichischen Gruppenstand und auch da sind Sie herzlich eingeladen, teilzunehmen. Sie finden Informationen zu unseren Veranstaltungen auf dem WKO-Portal unter Außenwirtschaft zum Land Kroatien. Da finden Sie alle unsere Veranstaltungen, können sich darüber informieren und natürlich bekommen Sie die Information jederzeit auch gerne direkt bei uns. Ich habe ganz vor kurzem auch gehört, dass in Wien eine Veranstaltung des kroatischen Unternehmerverbands geplant ist, und zwar in Kooperation mit Talentarium. I'm switching to English again. And Lucia, I think it's a very newly planned event, but maybe you can say just a few words about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thanks for the introduction part. Yeah. So as you mentioned, on the actually Austrian market or on the Viennese market, there is the Association of Croatian Entrepreneurs in Austria, which supports both Croatian but also Austrian companies in establishing and strengthening collaboration with the Croatian market. So all of the activities that the association has are oriented towards strengthening, as I said, the collaboration between those two markets. And in, if I'm correct, October this year, there will again be some kind of flagship event related to strengthening that relation between the two markets.
Okay, there will be die Information über diesen Event wird dann auch auf unserer Webseite sein. Und danke, Lucia. Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, ich verabschiede mich damit aus Zagreb und gebe zurück an Uli Stracker. Vielen Dank auch nochmal an die Kollegen in Bulgarien für die Moderation.
Danke, Sonja Hollacher-Erdl aus Zagreb. Wir freuen uns auch, Sie weiter zu betreuen. Unsere nächsten Veranstaltungen in Bulgarien sind der Österreich-Stand auf der Maschinotech-Messe im April und der Österreich-Stand auf der Sicherheitsmesse HEMUS in Plovdiv Ende Mai. Wir möchten Sie auch einladen, zu unseren Austrian Business Circles zu kommen und sind gerne mit Ihnen in Kontakt, wenn Sie noch Fragen zu Outsourcing haben und wenn wir Sie da begleiten können, Partner zu finden. Auch wenn das nicht im Dienstleistungsbereich, sondern im Produktionsbereich ist, sehr gerne gehen wir auf Ihre Fragen ein, kommen Sie uns auch besuchen. Es ist kein Problem, mit uns in Kontakt zu kommen. Dear Mr. Ilya Krstev, Chairman of the Bulgarian Outsourcing Association, or IBEST, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you.
And we would like to say goodbye from Sofia now. You will get the presentations and the link to the webinar in the next few days. Thank you very much for being with us. Bye-bye from Sofia. Have a good day.
Bye.